This is Take Two.
You all right?
I'm all right. Yeah, you.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask you to introduce yourself. First of all, I'm just going to say thank you for joining me.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm assuming if future me does everything right, this episode will go out before New Year's.
Lovely.
Or after.
Or after.
Either way, it's going to be a week before or a week after. We'll figure it out.
Fine
I'll
with that.
figure it out.
We let people wear.
So I was doing some research on you, yeah?
Okay, right. How deep did you go?
Not too deep.
Okay,
Not too deep.
this would be interesting.
You used to deal drugs.
Yes.
Could you tell me how you ended up in that situation?
I ended up in that situation clearly because I was driven by money. I was after planning an escape out of Ireland to move to Australia.
Okay.
And I was working a good job at the time, but unfortunately, a good job after getting out of college and being qualified in a few things is not able to sustain a decent living in Dublin, paying your rent, living the lifestyle I was living, which was drinking and partying and taking cocaine. So obviously the next step was then to start dealing and making an extra bit of money on the side.
So literally you just
Literally
asked one of your friends
I didn't ask one of my
or
friends.
someone you knew?
I wouldn't ask any of my friends because I didn't really trust. I do trust my friends, but I don't trust any of the boys that are dealing drugs. And I'd found out after a while that was a good thing not to do, was to trust any of them. So I ended up getting a contact from someone else. I won't even say where we are because you never know who'll be listening to these things. But I ended up making my own contact and got into it that way. Kind of threw myself into it without really ever having a clue about how to do it properly, you know what I mean?
And how long did you do that for?
I was doing it from I think it was August until February. So it was about 6-7 months.
Okay, not too long.
It wasn't too long. Now, I was always involved with boys that were doing it and hanging around those kind of circles. But for me to actually be dealing heavily, it was about 6-7 months, and I was moving quite a substantial amount.
Like, do you understand or do you have empathy in saying that for people that do deal drugs or because of the money?
I probably got into it for a very stupid reason. It was just to make extra money and to pay a few bills and get myself sorted.
How much money are we talking here?
What do you mean?
Like within 7 months? How did your pay increase?
7 months, depends on what you're moving and depends on what time of the season. You come into Christmas, you move a lot more than you do, you know.
Why?
People are out partying, Christmas parties.
I see.
People like to make it snow over the Christmas, so when it's not snowing on the street, it's snowing in someone's pocket. But so don't know, you could be making an extra maybe 2-3 grand a month.
Crazy.
Yeah, depending on how much you were whacking out, yeah.
And lads, sorry, I don't mean to say lads, but I've only seen guys dealing drugs.
There's
But
plenty of girls that do it too. You're not all butter melt in your mouth kind of thing.
I think the only reason why I ended up saying lads from the get-go was because they are less shy about it.
Yeah.
And confident in the streets.
I didn't tell anybody when I was doing it.
Okay.
I wasn't sending out like a menu of stuff that I had on offer, you know what I mean? The only reason why I got into it is because I had plugged a mate of mine before with some stuff I was able to get. He was fairly surprised by the quality of it. So I was after making a contact with this guy. He was going to be a good customer. And then he had a few people who would have been good customers. And these were all fairly well-to-do people. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I was dealing drugs and meeting people down back alleys. This kind of thing. It was meeting people who were...
At a wee work.
No, not a work. It was just people that were businessmen. You know what I mean? So it was just simple, very clean, very under the radar kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I love that.
I wasn't one of these boys standing in the North Face jackets and tracksuit bottoms standing out in the street.
I promise you, the other day I was walking up and literally, I genuinely think they were 16 or 17. But they could be older, in fairness. Full on just package right on underneath, like belly button, boom, pause the parcel.
Yeah, a lot of those lads that are doing it, like I feel I feel a lot of empathy for them.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of lads, and I see it from where I'm living in Ballymun and when I was living in Blanche and from my area back home, a lot of lads get involved with dealing drugs is because that's all they know.
Mm.
And I never tell, and this is going to come across so bad, I will never give out to someone for dealing drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try and guide them away from it, but I'm not going to give out to them because a lot of lads, we're back with the lads thing, a lot of lads I know are doing it to pay bills and to put food in their children's mouths.
Mm-hmm.
There is the lads that are doing it to buy the Canada Goose jacket and look cool at a house party. Them boys they need to cop themselves on. But there is a lot of lads that are struggling out there to make ends meet, and that's the only thing they know how to do. So I feel sorry for them, but like I'm not going to tell them not to because it's the lesser of two evils, you know what I mean? They're selling cocaine that someone is going to buy anyway, but at least people are able to feed their children out of it, you know? It's kind of a double-edged sword, you know? So
what do you think would be the solution to like address the drug problem in Ireland?
I think we should follow suit with a lot of other European countries and maybe some of the states in America and start decriminalising certain drugs, legalising some of the lesser drugs that we already know have health benefits, you know. I think Ireland need to start being a bit more progressive in their stance on things, you know, because we're all open to everything. You can do whatever you want with your body, but yet you can't smoke a joint. You know, you can't put whatever you want into your body.
Yeah.
You know, and I think decriminalising it and legalising would help a lot.
But do you think there would be politicians that would have the balls to do that, or would it be a referendum?
There is politicians that have the balls at the minute. There is Gino Prunty. I can't remember the exact bill he was getting passed last year. We were at a protest.
Would they succeed though? That's the thing.
Well, look, there's been movement on all these things, which is good that they're opening the door. And I think the fact that like EU leaders like Germany are looking into also decriminalising it and legalising it, I think Ireland might not be too far behind them because there's serious revenue to be made, especially through legalisation of marijuana. There's serious health benefits as well for people who might need medical marijuana. As you can see, there's parents willing to march from Cork to Dublin in a stance to get her daughter, remember that lady? Get her daughter medical marijuana because of her disorder. And, you know, I think it should be made definitely more accessible for people, especially people suffering. Whatever about lads that want to have a few joints at the weekend, maybe make it a little bit harder. But
that's what I see. And I think it's also just a little bit of education on, because I do think that I'm all in favour for it, especially psychedelics and all that kind of like fun stuff. Yes, please. In saying that though, I do see the other end of the argument where sometimes people get really irritable or in psychosis or just like poor mental health because the environment of it is you're not going to go out, like you're not going to become extroverted like alcohol would do, but you're going to be like, you're going to internalize everything, which is amazing. But if you're not comfortable with that, you might go down a really shitty rabbit hole. Hence why the education is important.
The education is important, and just like anything else, I don't think everybody should take drugs, and I don't think everybody should take psychedelics, and I don't think everybody should drink alcohol.
Yeah,
everybody reacts different to certain substances, and alcohol seems to be, no matter what happens or what someone does, no one gives out to them for having a drink the next time. You know what I mean?
I know.
Whereas if I went out and took a load of cocaine and ended up in a row and ended up putting someone in hospital, or I ended up in hospital over it, people would be like, don't touch that again. What? Yeah, you know what I mean? But if it was drink, it was like, oh, he was drunk.
It's an
he's only after causing 10 grand's worth of damage to a hotel room and he's after getting arrested.
I wonder what the history is behind that though, in fairness. Like, was there a point where alcohol was illegal?
There was in America, yeah.
Really?
When was it? In the 20s or the 40s or something? Prohibition era. They like outlawed everybody and they were making their own kind of moonshine and poaching. It was technically poaching, which would have been Irish kind of. The Irish would have been doing it too, making their own poaching back in the day to hide from the English and stuff. So
yeah.
You
also did DMT, didn't you?
I am actually just fresh off an ayahuasca retreat.
Oh my god!
Weekend.
Tell me everything.
I can't tell you everything because I'm still trying to process everything.
Okay.
But it was the most amazing.
Did you do it in Ireland?
In Ireland, yeah. I can't even really be giving too much away here in the podcast. I know some people that know some people in lots of different circles. So, but yeah, I was down in the Midlands and it was just the most amazing experience because I've done DMT plenty of times. In a ceremony setting, I've probably done DMT 6 or 7 times. I've done mushrooms a gram or two here if I'm out on a hike or doing something fun with my friends. But one of my closest mates now, we've done a few heroic doses of over 5 grams, and the ayahuasca was a completely different kettle of fish altogether.
Was it a hallucinogenic? Like, could you see things?
I had a very different experience than the other people in ceremony. Everybody's experience was different, and I think the ayahuasca shows you what you need to see. I knew what I was going down there for. I was going down with intentions to gain a bit more control in my life and clarity in a few situations of where I wanted to move next with my life. And I feel like I got that over the 2 nights sitting through ceremony. And then other people felt like they got nothing. Other people felt, that was their experience. They felt like that they should have got more. But ayahuasca shows you what you need to see at the time. And I've learned that from even just one sitting, because DMT is the same, except it's in its more broken down form where you can smoke it and it lasts probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I think I was out for a half an hour one time.
Do you just like close your eyes and it happens, or?
What, with the DMT?
Yeah. Sorry, I love this topic so much.
I don't know. It depends. I've sat through a few people getting DMT as well, so I couldn't tell you what they're feeling. But what I feel is after a couple of hits of ingesting the smoke, your consciousness just slips away into another dimension. Is the only way I can put it.
Do you see elves?
You see lots of things. Yeah, some people see different things. Some people see, like I couldn't.
Yeah,
tell
like
you
let's talk about your experience.
What, my experience?
Yeah,
with
your
DMT?
experience. Like, leave the other people out of it.
Every time with DMT, I always find that it shows me a little glimpse of the future. But it shows me 2 options, and it always does. And even the ayahuasca retreat at the weekend showed me 2 options of what was going to happen with my life. And I think it's always given me the clarity to say, right, well, this is what's going to happen if you're going this way. And if you up your game a little bit, you can be going this way. So,
and you completely believe.
I always feel like, I have great inspiration from taking psychedelics. For me, I always get clarity after. Whether it's a year down the line, something will hit me and I'd be like, that was that thing, that was that sign, that DMT ceremony, that mushroom ceremony, whatever it was. I feel like psychedelics it's like a little gateway to getting clarity in your life.
There's a crystal ball over there.
Kind of like a crystal ball. Have you ever done any psychedelics yourself?
I've done mushrooms.
Mushrooms. How many grams?
3, like my first time going at it. I woke up with a splitting headache afterwards though.
Were you prepared beforehand? Or was it at a house party, or when did you do it?
No, just over at my place. But like, what do you mean prepared? Clearly I did it wrong, so.
Well, no, it's just if you're, me personally, if you're taking psychedelics, you have to give them the respect they deserve.
Okay.
Whatever about taking a gram of mushrooms and having whatever going on a hike, that's different. That's just kind of a light,
like having
like having a coffee with your friend. But when you're going deep, if you're having a heroic dose, for me, I think it's good to prepare yourself dietary-wise, hydration-wise, and personally, I always fast for about 24 to 36 hours before I take them.
Okay.
Yeah, no matter what it is, DMT, mushrooms, even smoking changa or something like that. But the ayahuasca, I give myself, I think it was 39 hours by the time I'd actually eaten something, because I was so busy. Ended up having to leave Dublin Thursday straight away after teaching the yoga session, and I hadn't eaten since like 2 o'clock that day because it was flat out. So I went straight home and then went in to say hello to my mother just in case something happened to me over the weekend.
Gotta shit myself.
And, yeah, so I ended up down there, and by the time the breakfast was handed out on the Saturday, I think it was like 39 hours, something like that. I hadn't eaten anything, and it felt great.
Really?
Yeah. It just gives the body,
like,
or gives the body just the chance to process what's happening with the medicine.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have loads of food in there, especially they say not to eat any animals because apparently the consciousness can affect the plant medicine, because the plant medicine comes from the earth. But I feel, in a more logical sense, is your body is trying to break down the meat, and the meat is protein is one of the hardest macronutrients to break down. So I feel like that's what happens. The body ends up taking.
It's a bit less of a bullshitty.
Yeah. So I think a fast is always good. Now, I'm not an expert on psychedelics. This is just my own personal
I've been
experience.
trying to bring people on for fucking a psychedelics episode.
Have you?
Yeah. I still can't nail it down.
You're probably talking to the wrong guy.
I'm talking to the wrong. I'll chat to you after.
Darragh Stewart, maybe. He's a guy now. He's heavily involved with researching psilocybin. And
Yeah.
I find his posts are very good. So maybe he's a
He's
guy you
good.
should get on. He's
Yeah.
well schooled up and well educated in that
Yeah.
area.
Dara, come on.
Yeah. Plug.
Gas. But were you ever like disappointed, not with the experience itself, right? But did you ever come out of a trip going like, oh, I'm not happy with that. Like,
No.
I'm scared that that will happen or something.
No, because if you're whatever the psychedelics show you, I feel like you need to see it. Whether it's something traumatic, whether it's something that makes you feel happy, like whatever it is, you need to see it. And then it's up to you what you want to do with what you're after being shown.
I see.
You know, and that's the way I always look at it. I've never been scared, and I've had some bad trips, as they call them. A bad trip isn't like, there's no such thing as a bad trip. You'll have an emotional trip. You'll have an upsetting trip. Well, I suppose that is a bad trip, but
like
I've had a few upsetting trips, and when I come out of it, it's just been upsetting because they're telling me, like, they talk to you. The mushrooms talk to you. The plants talk to you. DMT, ayahuasca, it all talks to you and tells you areas in your life that you know you want to fix, but you might be putting on the back burner. That's what I always find now. That's just my own interpretation of psychedelics.
I love that.
Yeah, I always feel just feel like I have great clarity after every session.
So now are you sober now, or do you just like drink still and all that kind of stuff?
I'd say I've drank probably 6 times in the last 12 months.
Okay. So it's just drugs that like fuel you to go further.
What do you mean? With the plant medicine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've no real interest in drink now at the minute, and I've also not taken any psychedelics in over a year, bar this retreat. I've had a gram or two of mushrooms here and there.
Yeah.
Maybe smoked 1 or 2 joints of changa with a friend, but they're not, to me, that's not like a heavy dose, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a year since I actually properly sat in ceremony. So I feel like, yeah, even at that, I wouldn't use the drugs as an outlet or an escape or just something to do.
Yeah.
If I'm doing ceremony, I'm doing ceremony to find something out. Something's been bugging me. Something's been stressing me out. I need to
figure it out.
I need to sit down with myself, because when you're in that realm of whatever the psychedelic realm, whether it's mushrooms or DMT, you're in there alone, and all you have is your breath to help you get through it. So
crazy. I love that.
Yeah, it was a tough ceremony at the weekend.
I can imagine. It's also physical on the body, yeah? Like you're vomiting.
I was sweating. I didn't actually purge. I felt like, when I was talking to the 2 facilitators the next morning, I was saying that I felt like the ayahuasca wanted to stay in my body to do some work to heal over the next while. And I can still feel like some of it is in there. It's strange, like, because I've been noticing.
Is it a tea, like a liquid?
It's in a cup, yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't even get into what the drink even tastes like.
Pass.
It's tough to swallow. I was able to gulp it down because I knew the benefits of it, but I could hear some people that were
gagging.
Yeah. But look, that's what it is. You have to go through that, you know. But I didn't purge. I was doing a lot of burping for some reason. I felt like the ayahuasca went down one side and everything bad energy came up the other side. That's the way I could describe it to you. But,
and it's a whole weekend where you have like different time slots and stuff.
The ayahuasca is usually a nighttime medicine, so it's done. The ceremony is usually late at night.
Any reason why, or just?
I've seen a few documentaries, and I think that the darker light helps you focus more on what's happening internally. That's just my perception of it. I'll have to find out why, but I remember the guy that was holding the ceremony, I can't remember exactly why he was saying that it was done at night time. So the 2 ceremonies were done at night time, and they went deep into the night. So they were probably 5-6 hours long each ceremony. That's
the scary thing. That's not even a scary thing for me, but what I fear is I am such a good sleeper wherever I go. I just end anything late into the night. I am sleeping.
He was telling us not to lie down as soon as we drink our cup. He says try to sit up for as long as you can, for 20 minutes to an hour, because it's after 10 o'clock. Your body thinks, oh, I'm going to lie down here and go to sleep.
Exactly.
And you don't want to do that if you're after investing some time, some finances. No, it's not. The money wasn't even, to be honest with you, the way I felt on the Saturday night, because on the Friday night, I had a decent experience.
Okay.
And I found out Saturday evening that was only a warm-up for the Saturday night.
Okay.
So on Saturday morning, I woke up and I was like, I've actually had better experiences on DMT. Didn't feel like that was that strong, and blah, blah, blah. And then Saturday night, the 2 people facilitating were I don't know, psychedelic spiritual rock stars. You want to see the way they held the space and the music they were playing, along with the instruments that they were playing, and
I love that.
the energy that ran through my body and how I felt during it. I was just like, you know what? I couldn't care how much this cost for this feeling I have now and the clarity I'm after gaining. I would have cleared out my bank account and gave it to them. You know, that way. It was an amazing experience.
Because you can figure it out.
Mm.
If you were to, so considering that experience, if you were to look at yourself now and Seánie, not even 5 years ago, but pre the beach yoga, pre the psychedelic experiences, pre this reinvention yearly or evolution of yourself, what would you say, or what would you think about that?
If I could sit down with myself 5 or 6 years ago, literally, but me to me, I will be unrecognizable, and that is the truth.
Who were you before then?
I was just a lost little boy that thought he probably had to fit in. Growing up in a small town, and I always felt like I had to identify to something, whether it be rugby, boxing, soccer, hanging around with the boys, sitting on a high stool, taking drugs, being the party head. I always felt like it was attached to something, and you'd have a clique and having friends around you. But I've realised over the years that you see who texts your phone, and you see who you're actually in contact with, and you realise who your real mates are over the years. And probably the fact that I've kind of not really blocked people or anything like that, but I've cut a lot of people out of my life. Now, a lot of people have walked out of my life too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Works both ways, and I'm cool with that. But I feel like, yeah, I just had to kind of walk my own path and kind of lose any identity, attachment to any old identity that I had. Like, because the end of it, I am not blowing my own trumpet there. I am a nice fella, and I don't like arguing with people. I was quite an aggressive kind of typical me-head male, lifting weights, going to the box and playing rugby, out drinking, taking coke. You can imagine what kind of fella I was like, you know. So
yeah.
But I've always been drawn to the spiritual side of things, and even throughout all that, even dealing coke, I still threw times to get my yoga mat down, you know.
And I'm going to stop you right there. So did you feel an embarrassment to embrace that certain side of you or share that side of you with other people?
I probably did at the start. I think I did because I didn't really mean to start getting involved in yoga. It was just an accident, and then I was kind of keeping it on the slide because it was happening in the gym I was working in.
Okay.
And then after a couple of months, I started telling the lads, I was like, I'm telling you, you need to get out here and try this yoga. It's unreal. So obviously got a bit of slagging. The F word, I heard that a few times. Seanie's F, you know what I mean? I just passed no heat. It's over my head, you know?
Because I do think that there is a little bit of a stereotype when it comes to yoga, meditation, chakra related or anything, energy, where it is a little bit hippie.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of bridging the gap between that. Because
you are.
I am, like, I love that hippie lifestyle, like,
yeah.
But I have to be real here. I'm living in a very urban lifestyle. I'm living in a very urban area. I appeal to people who have a similar background than me. So for me to teach a yoga class and turn into a yoga instructor, by definition, I don't think it'd go well, and I think that's why I've found quite a good bit of success through the yoga, because people can relate to it. I make it fun. I make it a bit street, while keeping the philosophies and the respect for yoga intact with that as well. So,
when did you start out with, like, what was the moment that clicked? What happened where you were like, you know what, fuck this, I'm done with this life?
Yeah.
I'm liking yoga. I'm enjoying this side of my life. I'm going to commit to that.
When I was dealing drugs, I was, as I said, I was dealing it to a certain clientele. I didn't have to be out in the street. Didn't have to be having my phone pinging over at 2 o'clock in the morning. I made a mistake by calling to a mate's house to let him taste it, let him have a sample of it. And I hadn't seen him in a while, so we were going to have a drink and have a few lines as a social thing. So me and my mate ended up having a few cans, and he couldn't get over the quality of this stuff. And a week later, I get a phone call off a guy who I wouldn't be that friendly with.
Okay.
Didn't really know him, but he rang me on Facebook Messenger and asked if I had any of that stuff, because such and such told me that you had good stuff. And I was like, no, I have none, blah, blah, blah. That was only a tester. I only had it, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of let that one fly. And then another guy who is a friend of mine. He is a friend of mine. Like he was dealing quite heavily in the Midlands for a while, and hadn't seen him in a while. He was after moving out of the country for whatever reason, but he rings me from a different continent one day, and was chatting away for a minute, and then he just says, "Oh, I heard you got such and such as a customer," and I was like, "How did he hear that when he's out the other end of the world? Like, you know what I mean? Off traveling away, like, you know." And I just kind of got a bit of a step back. I was like, right, there's too many people knowing about this. I'm from a small town. There's a lot of other people, scarier people than me. You know, I thought I was this gangster at the time and was able to handle myself, but there's a good few people operating in the Midlands that are quite scary, you know. So I was like, right, well, I don't need these people finding out about this. So I ended up moving the last bag, and that was it. I ended up parking it and just started focusing back on what I should have been doing in the first place, because I always worked in the health and fitness kind of realm, you know. That was my background. So I just started pouring my energy heavily into that, and the yoga course was coming into May, so I just ended up jumping on the yoga course because I felt like it was just something even for myself to learn. It would have been very beneficial, because I was going through like some serious mental health problems at the time too. Cocaine makes you very paranoid.
Does it?
Yeah, you don't know who to trust. My town back home, I love everybody in it, and I always say it's a kip, but it's my kip, you know, that way. I love Longford, but a lot of people just can't keep their mouth shut, you know. So they know who they are if they end up watching this, but a few boys need to keep their mouth shut when it comes to things, you know. So
I see. You just said that story, right? And the one thing that I kind of pulled out of it is not that you got scared, but there was like a spooky feeling there where you got...
It wasn't even scared in terms of
not
getting in a row with someone. I didn't mind that.
Exactly.
It was just the fact that if people know, people talk, your parents find out, the Gardaí find out, some big
like
boys
you could
that you
see
don't
where
want
it
to mess with,
goes.
like so many people could find out, and it ends up just messing your whole life. So I kind of felt like, right, you had your opportunity, get in, get out. You made a few quid, you covered a few bills, you paid a few debts, you're debt free, whatever. I was like, right, it's time to park this now and start knuckling down and focusing on doing something positive, because I've always tried to be positive, even when I was getting caught up in some negative stuff, you know what I mean? That's why I avoided dealing drugs for so long. You know, I could have got into it so easy and done it for years.
Okay.
But I just didn't. I was kind of hanging around with the lads that were doing it and partying with them and all that, you know, but I just, it never dawned on me to do it. But then a few things happened personally, and then the pandemic was started rolling around, and I was like, I have to get out of this country. I was like, this is it, I'm done. And went flat out then for 6-7 months. It was actually before the pandemic came around, but then a couple of months into the pandemic then was when I started hearing phone calls of people, you know. So
was it like, were there any moments where you were like committing to me and committing to my future and health and fitness and the good side of my dreams are tough? It requires discipline. It requires struggle. How did you deal with that?
I just, psychedelics, the DMT experience I had, because I had stopped and I was in the gym and I was back training and I had a few injuries and I was getting over them, and I was finding me strength, and I was living a good lifestyle for a couple of months, and started hanging around the beach a little bit. Started spending a lot of time by myself, and I ended up meeting a friend of mine, and he put me on to someone with the DMT, and it literally just showed me the two paths. I've talked about this before, but it showed me two paths of going down one way, you were going to court, and the other way, you were going down this journey, and I looked real happy at the beach, and here I am. Happy.
So like you just like figured out.
I just figured it out, but I knew it was going to be tough. Like, I done an awful lot of work between working in the Mater Hospital during the pandemic. I was doing, I don't know how many hours a week. I was working 2 jobs at one stage, between the lab, phlebotomy, and then doing overtime at the weekends. And on top of that, I was after signing on for the yoga course. So I had like, I think it was 22 weeks of pretty much no life, between working the 2 jobs, teaching the yoga then on the Wednesday night, and then doing overtime at the weekend, and finishing overtime around lunch and bouncing straight up home to work on the laptop doing my yoga teacher training course. So there was a lot of discipline involved, and I was burnt out come the end of it. I was lucky. I was lucky that I was getting a little bit of a break come
Yeah.
towards the end of the year because I had knee surgery, so I was laid up for a while, and it gave the head a little bit of a break because it was
Okay.
a mad year.
So was it basically the DMT that kind of gave you that no need to doubt yourself, this is your path,
Yeah,
now just figure it out and commit to it?
that's what it was. And then
Everyone
was a lot
just
of
go on
things-
DMT now.
the what?
Everyone should just like do a
Smoke
DMT.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to tell everybody to smoke DMT. Some people can be left fried after it. But I just I just felt like there was more in me. I felt like there was more into me than
Yeah. I think a lot of people can relate to that. There's more. I'm not happy with who I am now. I know I want to do X. How the fuck do I manage to do X? And how can X pay me or provide me with that?
I think a lot of people see the X or the goal or whatever, and they're just focused on that. But if they start reverse engineering it
Okay.
from the goal, because that's the hard part. Or the goal is easy. You can put your goal out there and you know what you want.
Yeah.
But then putting the steps in place is the hardest. And sometimes the first step is the hardest part to see. You know what I mean? So sometimes reverse engineering your idea to break it down into how you get into step one. And that's all I did.
How did you reverse engineer from a goal going down? Like, would you be able to explain that process?
Yeah, because my goal now is to open up my own studio or strength and conditioning center. You know, and I've always had that. Like, I'm talking about a big place now. I'm not talking about like a little Mickey Mouse gym down a back alley somewhere. I'm talking about like maybe
Elite.
3 or 4 places opening up around the country. Now, this is probably going to take 10 years to do this, but I'm planning on having a big franchise of well-being clubs that's going to focus on everything: strength and conditioning, your yoga, your meditation, your breath work, your cold water therapy, recovery, the whole lot. That is my end goal. But I just had to reverse it back down because my eyes light up and I'm just like, this is my vision. This is what I want. And I'm like, right, yeah, well, that's grand. You haven't got the money to invest in that yet. You haven't got the know-how. You're going to have to pick up some skills along the way. So then I just started breaking it down. And it brought me back to, I already have a nutrition degree. I've already worked in a gym for 5 years, done various courses to get trained up. I was like, that's 2. And then it ended up being the yoga. That's 3.
I see.
So that's the trifecta. For me, the Holy Trinity is being able to do some good resistance training, keep a good balanced diet, and bring in the yoga, breathwork, and meditation. That is like a perfect little triangle of health for me now, to be honest. And that's what I'm trying to promote through me brand.
So you're gonna be like Bikram Yoga, have you?
Don't mention him. I'm trying to keep a good name, good reputation. I don't want to. I'm not going down the Bikram route. You'll never see me doing one-to-ones with any girls by themselves. Jesus. Bikram is banned.
Just have a franchise around everywhere.
Yeah, no.
God.
I wouldn't mind getting to maybe the level of notoriety of someone, a yoga instructor like Bikram, but doing it with good intentions. And
Hopefully it will be a good Netflix documentary.
A good Netflix documentary,
and not a cult-like one.
To be honest, we have the makings of a Netflix documentary with what's after happening down on that beach over the last few years. So you'd never know. We might be putting something on Netflix soon.
How does that make you feel though? Like considering, like how many people attend the beach yoga now?
I've no idea. It depends on the weather. It can be anywhere from, it could be 10 people or it could be 500 people.
Yeah.
Most Sundays there, it could be, even when it's raining, there's still 100 people showing up. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
But yeah, there's been crazy crowds down there, you know.
How do you control a crowd like that?
It's hard. I'm sure a lot of yoga instructors wouldn't even take on the challenge of trying to manage a class like that, but I feel like the level of yoga that I actually teach at the beach is quite manageable, because I'm not, people might say, oh, how's he managing that 200 or 300 people down there? I keep it very basic. It's the most safest yoga that I think anybody will ever participate in, because I have toddlers and OAPs coming to the session. So I do keep it very basic, and I think managing the classes have got so much easier as I've grown in confidence, and I know how to, don't want to sound like a performer here, but I know how to work the crowd, and I know when too much is too much, or I know when people need to speed it up a bit. Or
do you have a speaker and like a microphone?
Yeah, well,
and
I
all
did.
that?
It's after blowing up me a couple of weeks ago, and I'm after finishing up with the Wednesday yogas off the beach, but I think I'm going to purchase one.
Yeah.
I had one ordered, and then it was like, oh no, I'm finishing up at the beach now. And then ended up back at the beach because a few people were giving out to me for taking too much time off. So
How dare you?
yeah, no, but the microphone makes it a lot easier for people to hear. But it does be a good.
I'd love to
atmosphere.
see that just being yelled at to do a yoga pose with a Dublin accent, just like.
I haven't got a Dublin accent. I'm from Longford.
Oh, sorry about that.
I'm from the country.
Yeah, you're right. You are
I
right.
do actually probably have a bit of a Dublin accent.
How long have you been in Dublin
years.
for?
4 years. And I'm living in Ballymun as well, so I'm sure a lot of the Dub accent rubs off on me.
There you go. Do I sound Irish?
No.
Fuck.
You did there.
Did I?
Yeah, that fuck was very, very convincing.
The amount of voice notes that I get going, I hear Irish, but where's the where's the rest of it? Where's the twang?
Yeah, no, you definitely do have a bit of Irish.
I do
You
have a
said that
twang.
when you said that. Fuck, how do you like Ireland?
I like it.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah. Obviously, I think like being here for 4 years now, you can just like the novelty of everything being foreign is no longer that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like dwindling down. The drugs and the alcohol are quite an issue here.
Yeah.
That is what really surprised me. So like Malta, as you would know, is quite like a party island and similar to, I would say like similar to maybe the likes of Ibiza and all that.
Yeah, my sisters are mad to get me out there.
Yeah.
For a week. So I might go out and have a bit of a party. But it'd be very similar, wouldn't it?
Yeah, very similar. It's very party island. So like we do drink very heavily and we do drink early on, similar to Ireland, because there wouldn't be much like activities going around that are like healthy for young teenagers.
That's the thing, and that's where the government are lacking.
Yeah,
be providing
exactly.
these services. Like,
for sure.
What is there for young people to do?
No,
Especially
it's
in disadvantaged areas.
Yeah, it's like after the cinema, which are now getting so bloody pricey. After like you're done watching all the cinema dates, and then it's just like, oh, around the corner we can start drinking. Like,
to be honest, even in my generation, I think it's just a thing that has to be done. I think everyone drinks underage. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like we went to
it's
the
not
cinema.
going anywhere.
Never went to the cinema. You know,
that's
I'm
it.
staying at my friend's house, ringing their parents. You know,
but you know what I found really fascinating is the drink carries on throughout the week over here.
I used to drink a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
Even up until I was mid-20s. Like you could end up having a few drinks in the house on a Thursday, then you'd be out Friday night, then you'd be out Saturday the whole day if there was football or whatever on, and then end up in a house party Saturday night, rolling into the early house on a Sunday morning, and then staying there all day and then falling home Monday. You know what I mean? So it's just, I think in Ireland it's nearly like a rite of passage that a lot of people have to go through. You know, I stayed in that kind of zone for a bit too long in my life.
I don't know, man. I don't like it though. But I know it's weird because it's culture to a certain extent, right? So like you do respect it, but then it's more just like, it's a pity though, because you can see everyone's mental health dwindle down. Yeah. And like the likes of you, where you're using a public space for something good, right? From a government perspective, and also knowing that I am a foreigner, although obviously I am paying taxes and all that kind of stuff. It's like you can do so much because you have such a beautiful country. So like nature is so important. It's so good. Explain to me why it's so fucking difficult to get out to nature if you don't have a car, like via public transport, for instance.
It's just the government don't have it set up here for people to appreciate nature or have access to nature. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, do something.
The government don't care about people's health here. Like, look at HSE guidelines around physical activity. They're telling people to do 150 minutes a week. 150 minutes. I do 150 minutes before it's lunchtime a day. They're telling people to do that in a week. You know what I mean? How is that supposed to keep everybody fit?
It goes down to the boards. That's what I think. So like I'm not saying it's the government, because it is the government, obviously. But then if you were to split it up into the Education Institute, the Health Institute and all that, who are the board members that are making these decisions?
I don't know who the board members are, right?
They probably have beer bellies.
Yes. And probably the most unhealthiest people.
Probably the most unhealthy, driving their Teslas down and insisting that everyone needs to follow what they want to do. And there are massive issues going everywhere. I like to bring it up often. Obviously, I live in East Wall, so like I'm quite down at Fairview Park, right? There's a new kids park and there's a skate park. Explain to me why the kids park has probably 10 grand, if not more, of floodlights all around it,
Mm.
which makes complete sense because safety. The skate park doesn't have one light
Mm.
or a cover. The basketball court doesn't have a light either.
Mm.
You're in Ireland, it rains all the time. A fucking canopy, literally just 4 poles and just like a piece of stainless steel.
Those
Easy
areas,
solutions, no?
they are, yeah, they're simple solutions, but the
Simple.
government, those areas won't get funding from the government because, as I said, the government don't care about people's health. Everybody's seen throughout the pandemic, the biggest marketing campaign that has ever existed in this country went into advertising that COVID-19,
Yeah.
right? If they took 10% of that budget or 20% of that budget and promoted it into putting healthy adverts on the TV, adverts promoting health, or even you walk into a shop nowadays, walk into a Centra, walk into a Spar, walk into any of those kind of convenience stores. By the time you get to the till, you are walking through a maze of sugar and chocolate. Surely, in a country where obesity rates are so high and physical activity levels are so low, they should do something to remarket. The merchandising of the stores should be moved around because, like, where's the hell? You walk into some centres and there might be a mouldy banana hanging in a fruit basket, you know?
Yeah.
So I think Ireland need to definitely spend a little bit more time, a little bit more resources into promoting health and putting on events that people can actually benefit from, because there's so many beautiful beaches, forests, parks, and nothing goes on in them.
And they're hard to get to, and you kind of just have to break that barrier of bringing it to the people. Even just something as cool as, like, Moore Street where the markets are. Now they're just gated up, right?
They're just Moore Street.
People are just throwing shite in there.
Moore Street is
empty.
Gone. It's dead.
It's gone. What about like a campaign to like reintroduce that? An incentive to bring people there?
I don't think they'd ever do that because they're kind of letting these places, from what I can see in the city, is they're letting a lot of places that would have held high value get devalued by leaving people out on the streets. Like Moore Street used to be glorious back in the days. You would walk down there. My grandparents or my family used to bring us down for Christmas shopping. This is the most cultiest story ever. The first place our aunties would want to go, or my granny would want to go, would be into Michael Guinney's, because that was the first spot off the train station. You get down a little bit further and it'd be into the Kylemore. That was the restaurant right beside where the Spire is.
Okay.
That's all just homeless people outside it now. That restaurant is closed. That was a landmark, especially the Culchies back in the day, because that made you right in the middle of Dublin. And then you go down a bit further and they'd want to go to Moore Street, and you go down there and it'd be just the atmosphere, people roaring. If you walk down Moore Street now, I take one headphone out of my ear walking down there just to make sure that no one comes up and tries to attack you, because you don't know who's down there, what kind of people are down there, and the place looks like an absolute bomb site. It looks like a poverty-stricken area,
It's literally just people, florists, selling sunflowers for a tenner.
I don't know what it is, but
that's it.
Just the government have just kind of lost the heritage of Dublin down here as well. I feel like anyone in power, they're not looking after the areas that have serious sentimental value to Dubs and Irish, and even people coming in. Like, I'm sure there's people that come into Moore Street now and are probably like, what street is this? We're getting lost if they haven't been here in the last 5-10 years,
For sure, because especially when it comes to Dubs that probably haven't visited Dublin in a long time, will go like, oh yeah, go here, go there, go there. Oops, there you go. Go everywhere, and then you just get there and you're like, is this what they were talking about, right?
Yeah.
In saying that though, I do think there is a major issue when it comes to mental health, drinking, all of that kind of stuff. And there needs to be, like, stop telling people to just go on a walk. Walks help. They do. But you need to give them more.
I know for a fact there is not enough support coming from professionals, coming from the HSE, coming from the health service. And these are supposed to be providing help to people who need it. My friend, this was now going back 2 years ago. He picked me up one day. We were on the way to the gym. He was suffering severely at one stage. The death of his father, some problems going on in his own personal life. He was in a very dark spot. And he started hanging around with myself and a few other people from the beach, coming to the gym again, swimming, got back playing rugby, doing a few bits. He said to me one day, I got a phone call off the HSE this morning. And I says, all right. I says, what was that about? And he says, they're after getting me counselling. And I just, because I had never been to counselling at the time, I said, maybe it'll help you, like, fair play, whatever. Says, for willing to go to it. He goes, dude, I made that appointment 18 months ago. And they only got back to him. And I was like, 18 months. And this fella was in the depths of it. He was so depressed. He'd so much going on, couldn't really open up to anybody. Opened up to me and a few of his close friends and family. So I knew
thankfully he opened up.
I knew how hard he was going, or how hard it was what he was going through. And then 18 months later, the HSE get in touch with him. You know what I mean? That's scandalous. So, and there's loads of people qualified in Ireland to work in that area. There's so many people that went and became social care workers and done those courses in college, and they can't get a job anywhere. So that's why the government should be able to say, right, well, even hire these people on a freelance basis so we can take the workload off people,
Considering that you are working in the health sector, right? What would your take be on the concept that it is getting quite pricey to seek such services, such good services?
I think that people maybe who are on the dole are struggling financially. There probably should be some support coming from the government there, whether, say, if a counselling session is 50 quid, social welfare pay 15 or something like that towards it. But people who can afford it and that are giving out about the price.
Okay.
People need to listen to this now. If there is people listening to this, if you're able to go out and buy new kicks for yourself and go out dressed up at the weekend and drink and put yourself into a worse mind state from doing negative things and wasting your money, you can surely go and spend 50 quid on a counselling session, or maybe spend 200 quid on a package of counselling sessions, because in the long term, your health is your wealth. And when your health starts to fade, so do the runners, so does the money, so does the nights out, so does the partying. So I think people need to really prioritise what they want to start investing in, because, it's your health. This is your experience here, and you want to have a healthy experience,
New year, new me. How do you commit to your health?
I wake up every day, and no matter how I'm feeling, I do the same things every day.
What is your routine?
My weekly routine. I don't have a daily routine because my day can differ, depending on what I'm doing. I do have structure to my week, and I kind of have a fair idea, but I could get a phone call the day before and get asked to do a random job. Question
though, did you find it hard to introduce structure to your week?
Yeah, because I was after leaving my job and going full-time working for myself. So I was like, I've loads of spare time here now. And I was kind of twiddling my thumb for a couple of weeks. And I was like, no, you need to be doing more than just teaching yoga a couple of times a week. So, it was hard to add structure, but I feel like I've got good structure now. And
has something helped you in that regard with structuring your week? Any tools that people could take up?
The yoga definitely adds a bit of structure, but just, I think, being organised. I think having a clean living environment is very important to having structure, because you can see people who are messy car, messy house. Their life is a mess. They're running around panicking. If you have an appointment with someone, or if you're planning to meet a friend or something like that, you'll always know the one who's panicking and rushing to get there, because they're not organised. So I think having a clean, organised environment. Now, I'm not saying pristine, OCD, all the labels facing out the same way.
Yeah.
I think if you just have a nice space,
functional,
where it's able to function, and a nice feng shui, where the environment has a good energy flowing through, I think that's the best thing for me to keep myself structured. So I think being organised.
All right. What else do you get going in your week?
I get going swimming, yoga, bit of resistance training, and then I've just had a couple of injuries that I'm just after getting over. So I've gone back boxing and just doing a little bit of light MMA training, but I'm not doing any physical contact because
you had quite an accident.
A few years ago. So I'm just enjoying my training again. I think physical activity and I heard a good one at the start there of last month, and it was, don't start your day until you know how it ends, don't start your week until you know how it ends, and don't start your month until you know how it ends. And I think that is a very good kind of concept to bring with you moving forward. If you know you have, like, I always know if I have a big month, November is a big month for me, I have a lot of work on, but if I hadn't got myself organised the last week in October for that, my life would be a mess. Even trying to organise this, remember you double checked with me, I had that penciled in. If I didn't have that and you would have messaged me yesterday, I would have been like, oh my God, I have to cancel something else now. So I feel like, yeah, don't start your day, don't start your week, or don't start your month until you know how it's going to finish. That's the way I always try to.
I like that.
I've always tried to live like that, but when I heard it on a podcast, I was like, that's what I've been trying to do. So yeah, even the daytime now, I'll set myself up the night before. I'll know what I'm doing.
Do you struggle with if something does come in your way and like the day is looking like, no, I did not plan this?
If an obstacle ends up disrupting my day, because I have ADHD, a slight touch of it, apparently I was told, by my psychology lecturer at 28. I've talked about this before. It's scandalous how you can slip through, but yeah, I feel with the ADHD, it's I can end up getting a bit stressed sometimes if an obstacle ends up coming in the way, because I have the clear, definitive vision in my head, and then something will end up taking me out on my own. But I've learned over the last few years, especially through the yoga, that just center yourself, calm yourself down, don't panic, and it's helped me a lot with some of the times I would have reacted that would have probably been an ADHD kind of outburst. That doesn't happen as much now. So
do you just get on with it? Because what I struggle with is if something doesn't go to plan, I freeze.
Right.
I just freeze, and
I think accepting it, because if something happens, you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
Now the way I operate is like kind of like 10-15 seconds of kind of talk going, oh, that's kind of after ruining me day now, kind of going to have to put a different structure in. And by 10 or 15 seconds, if I'm still giving out about it to myself, it's going to really mess my vibe up for the whole day. So I just kind of 10-15 seconds, couple of breaths, I'm like, right, is there a solution? And as soon as I find out there is a solution, I'm like, right, well, that's what you have to do. If you have to put someone off, that it's like, you always put whatever's the priority first. That's what I always do. And if a priority ends up coming in unannounced, it's still a priority, you know?
You sound like you're at a really good place, man.
I am after getting into a really good place. I had a tough year, with a few things going on behind closed doors that Instagram wouldn't see, between my own physical condition and a few other areas. But I feel good. I feel like I'm ready to move on to the next chapter. I feel like everything that's after happening in my life over the last 4 years is guiding me to be sitting here with you.
Would you consider these 4 years as one chapter?
Yeah, I feel like I've just restarted living my life again.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a new person.
Ah.
Or I feel like I'm the real person. I feel like I'm the person that was kind of lost by the time I hit my teens, you know that? Because when I was younger, I was very inquisitive and didn't care what people thought. I was always like, oh, what's that? I want to try that. And I would have tried everything when I was a kid. And then when you kind of get running, like, with people, you know what I mean? Everybody kind of just likes the same thing. Let it be football or Gaelic or whatever. Yeah, everybody just gets boxed in, and we just all accept that, you know? So, yeah, I feel like I've just really started living the life that I was supposed to be living 4 years ago. So
when I first reached out to you, you told me that there's more to you than beach yoga. And you mentioned that you experienced quite a bit of body dysmorphia growing up, right?
Yeah.
Shall we dive into that a bit?
Definitely, yeah. I think it's a good topic for a male to talk about, because especially now with the pressure that with social media, and it's even with me now, because I'm quite prominent on my social media, I feel like I always have to be looking, feeling strong, especially because I'm teaching yoga and I'm trying. It's quite difficult when you're not feeling fit to teach a yoga session. You get exposed, and I wasn't fit for a while there because I said I had surgery at the start of the year. I was regaining my strength. So even me having body conscious issues back in the day, I feel like I'm after overcoming a lot of them now, because standing in front of 200 or 300 people at the beach when you're not in your best physical condition, you're only after recovering from surgery, you've been laid up in bed for 2 or 3 months. I didn't feel the strongest. I didn't look the best, you know what I mean? But I've accepted my body for what it is, and I love it now for what it's able to do. Whereas in the past I wouldn't have. But that was a lot got to do with eating disorders too, and not being happy with how I felt dressed or naked, you know.
How could you identify, or looking back now in hindsight, because I do think that eating disorders in men are not spoken about often. What would be those red flags or anything where it's like early indication of?
I think if there's men out there, and this is going to sound so rootless, if there's men out there, and if I hear my friend saying, "Oh, I'm not eating and I can't lose weight, and I do eat healthy and I can't lose weight," I'm just calling them point blank straight to their face and telling them they're full of shite, because I used to say that too.
Okay.
I used to be like, "Oh no, I am. I'm not eating that." But yes, you would be eating takeaways a couple of times a week. You would be eating chocolate, and all these things don't go into a person's head sometimes, because they're trying to ignore the fact that they're eating it.
So like you just don't register
You
it.
don't register.
So it's not lying per se.
Yeah, they are lying. Some people are lying.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
they will try to perceive that they are leading the healthy lifestyle. If you have a friend and they're going to the gym for 6 months and they're on this healthy diet and they haven't lost any weight, they're probably not going to the gym and they're probably not on that healthy diet.
I
So
see.
that's what I was at for so long. I was trying to get into the gym and trying to get into eating healthy, but I didn't like it, and I'd end up storing food up in my room. Anytime I had some spare few change in my pocket when I was a teenager, I'd be just into the chipper, just get something. And if, to be honest, I felt like a crutch half the time, going and getting food, and it was something to do. I had no actual. I have brothers and sisters, but they're from my father when he remarried, so it was just usually me and my mother.
Yeah.
And my mother was at work quite a lot, so I would have been in the house by myself, and she'd come home and I'd have the whole house eating apart, playing the PlayStation or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just the eating disorders definitely have played a role in how I live my life now. I done so much damage to myself when I was younger from binge eating and binge drinking. Like, I started drinking when I was like 11 or 12, and it was about 14 when some health problems started to arise, physical ones. I had real bad problems with my chest, problems with my stomach, and they ended up sending me to an obesity clinic in Mullingar, and that's when I started learning about.
Were you like big?
Yeah, it was quite. Yeah, I think I was the heaviest I was ever at when I was that age. I think I was 14 and a half stone when I was like 13, maybe 12. So I was quite wide. Yeah, it was widescreen. Yeah, so yeah, I got a bit of help in the Star Clinic way back in the day.
And what did you do? Like, what was your process?
The process was going over meeting this lady. She was kind of like a counsellor, nutritionist. She kind of done everything. She was kind of like a jack of all trades. It was over at Mullingar Hospital, and just tried to implement better eating habits. I always played soccer out in the green or in school or whatever. I was always involved that way, but I had no other real interest in exercise or playing Gaelic or anything like that. It was just always soccer that I liked when I was younger. So I feel like me other friends would have had other outlets for their activities and stuff like that, whereas me was just kicking football. I was either out the front kicking football, playing football in school, or else I was in the house playing PlayStation, or in my mate's gaff playing the PlayStation. We were always just somewhere doing something that wasn't too tasking on the body, that way.
And would you say that food could be an addiction for people?
Definitely.
Yeah. I feel like that's not spoken enough, because it is quite a touchy topic.
It is. It's definitely it was an addiction for me. Anything sweet, chocolate, anything like that. You'd feel, and the only way I can relate it to is like wanting a cigarette or wanting, I don't know. Well, alcohol has never really appealed to me that way, but you'd be like wanting a cigarette or something like that. And you're nearly in a frenzy to get the food and then to get it into you, that way. And then you realise after eating like 3 or 4 packets of biscuits there that you probably shouldn't have eaten, So I felt like when I was younger it was a bit of an addiction. And I would only turn to the stuff that I had hid under my bed if something was after hurting me in a physical or an emotional kind of way, that way.
Yeah.
Not in a physical way, in a more an emotional way. Because I had started to put on, I was quite a chunky kid when I hit about 11 or 12, but I wasn't really that big. And then I think when you start getting slagged a little bit when you hit 12, 13, you take things on board a lot more, because you become a little bit more sensitive as you start to develop into a man. You're at the prepubescent stage, or not even at the adolescent stage, and then people are starting to slag you, and you don't take it on. Like, I didn't at the time, because I just slag back, or I'd retaliate, it'd end up in a fight or something like that. But now when I look back at things, it's like, yeah, it's not nice to have people giving you abuse, and I've gave people abuse back too, so I'm not a saint,
That's the interesting thing, because I do think the approach to men versus women is so different. And like, we won't dive too deep into it, but although you do have a degree in nutrition, so you are qualified to, like, we can if you want.
Yeah. I'm open.
In saying that though, I feel like a lot of lads say, oh yeah, like if your friend is fat, I can tell him, mate, you're fat. And he will go to the gym, and because he's a dude, that's okay. That's what lads need to kick up the ass.
Yeah.
Versus women, it needs to be like, it's a lot more of a sensitive topic. A lot of the discourse is also saying that women are being praised for being overweight.
I had this conversation with a guy yesterday. I went training with him, and we were talking about. Don't know how that came up. It was something got to do with what he had seen on the cover of a magazine, and it was glorifying, like, whatever, people are beautiful in whatever shape or size, but to be like, you will never see an obese or an overweight plus size male model in a pair of Calvin Kleins on the front of a billboard.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
Because it's not appealing to the woman.
Yeah.
And it's not appealing to the man. The man sees the Calvin Klein boxers. He's like, right, look at that fella. He's in shape. I'm not wearing them. I'm not putting on a pair of Calvin Kleins until I look like that. The women see the Calvin Klein model and they think, that is the epitome of a man. Nice big package in the tighty whities, ripped six pack. How about we flip the lid in it and we get a bald 40-year-old fat man and we'll put him on the Calvin Klein adverts? Because you see beautiful women that aren't that healthy and they're promoting like a health brand wear, you know what I mean? And
would you say it's the language though? Because it's like beautiful women, and it's not a question of beauty, but could you call that 40-year-old bald fat man handsome? Sure. Like, if
everyone's
we're talking
perception
about
of
beauty,
a person, like, some people are going to think
exactly.
I'm ugly, some people think I'm beautiful,
Yeah.
some people think you're ugly, some people think you're beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
very
everyone's
few
perception.
of them, in fairness.
But love it. But we're talking about health here. We're talking about health here. You know what I mean? And like, and I'm not saying that these people aren't healthy, you know what I mean? There's so many like people who are healthy and are plus size beautiful people, you know what I mean? I've loads of friends who are not ripped or jacked, but they're beautiful, healthy people. But if you're advertising health, are we not trying to promote that kind of healthier lifestyle? Someone who looks like they know what they're talking about, you know? As I said, you're not going to see an overweight man wearing a pair of Calvin Kleins. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good area for people to look at. I kind of think it's a strange area that women are glorified in that area. But if a man is overweight, he's just fat, overweight, ugly, unattractive. You know what I mean?
I think it literally goes back to the history of women were told for a very long time, skinny, eating disorder, anorexia, you know, like that
was pushed by the magazines and the propaganda from
and
Hollywood.
the media and all that kind of stuff. So it went literally, as the way things go, one extreme to another.
Yeah.
And in fairness, when you actually think about it, it's like me, for instance, I'm probably like 5'2", 5'3", normal, like athletic build, probably. No modeling agency is going to take me down on a catwalk because I am in the middle.
I get what you mean, yeah.
And the lineup of models that they're getting is plus size and is XS small.
But I don't know what they even, excuse me, class as plus size, because I seen a girl that shared a reel the other day. And like, this confuses me, because when they say a plus size model, I'm like, well, who or what kind of determines a plus size model? Because this girl was gorgeous. She was about 6'1", blonde hair. She didn't look like, she just looked like she was athletic, but she was tall. And next minute, your one was saying, I think you should go into the plus size model category. And I was like, my concept of what a plus size model was, it was completely different than what you're after calling that lady, because that lady doesn't look like a plus size model. She looks like she should be a yoga instructor out in Sweden. You know what I mean? So I don't know what the definition of a plus size model is, and there's different parameters around health and different ideas of what a healthy body looks like.
For sure.
And that is fine. People are chunky, people are not. It's just, if you're advertising health, make sure that it's been done in the right way, because it's kind of like you're giving a crutch to people then to not be healthy. You know what I mean?
Like, I would say that the rule of thumb should be get the average. If you are Calvin Klein, where you're modeling clothes, it has to be on the average that you're advertising, right? And because you're advertising a fucking pair of boxers, you're not advertising health. Everyone, I hope, is wearing underwear.
Yeah.
On the other hand, though, it's like sports, for instance. I don't, that's a lie. I like watching NFL highlights, American football. I find it so interesting. You have lads that are ripped and lads that are not, but these are well-paid athletes because of the different function. They can run, they are strong, they can catch a ball, athletic ability is there, which I find really cool and interesting.
Same with rugby.
Same with rugby. What's it called? Shot put in athletics. People are massive in that.
That's it. But they're athletes.
They are
athletes. And they're healthy and they're strong and they have a purpose. They're not doing it for aesthetics.
Exactly.
A shot put, a fella that's competing in shot put in the Olympics is going to have the broadest shoulders you've ever seen, the most powerful legs and butt you've ever seen. But he's going to have a gut to help him propel that ball through the air, and that has a purpose. But he is an athlete in that sport. Same when I was competing.
Would that be healthy though?
Probably not in the long term. When I was doing strongman training and I competed in a few competitions, the excess of calories that you were getting in and the damage that training was doing to your body, in the long term, strongman probably isn't the best sport for your heart. Shot put probably isn't as bad as that, but carrying that excess weight, any weight that we are carrying, like in a visceral sense or subcutaneously around the midsection, it is not good because that's where all the internal organs are. And that has been a precursor for doctors to identify whether someone is going to have heart problems or not, is the excess adipose tissue around the gut for males, because that's where males tend to get it first.
And what about women?
Women, it's usually more in the hips, the butts kind of area. But that tends to obviously happen after childbirth and stuff. I don't really know too much about the women body. You know that
there,
way?
yeah.
I know. I'm focused on trying to get the men healthy. I can feel like I can relate to the lads a lot more.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I think
women, I love you, but you're very difficult. I went and helped my friend Stacey. I told her before I even sat down, I says, we're going to do this now, this nutrition program. I have no problem. I'll eat anything. By the end of it, no, I don't. How am I going to get time to do this and blah blah blah?
Yeah.
And like,
the communication is so different. It is so different because like I also see, weirdly enough, I talk to a lot of lads. I have a lot of lads on the podcast, and I love seeing their Instagram profiles or the comments where it's like, went on a run, and it's like, yeah, bro, good job, mate, keep it going, onwards and upwards, blah, blah, blah. It's like, fuck yeah. Whereas with women, it's like, do you want that piece of chocolate? It's more just like, let me like pull you down a little bit.
I don't get that much now on my Instagram at the minute, because I suppose, I don't know.
I'll start commenting.
Yeah, a lot of it, like, I think it's probably because me following is probably 82% females in their 30s to 40s to 50s because they're coming down to yoga. But
they feed you compliments, or is it just heart emojis in the comment section?
No comment. No comment. Yeah, the DMs are no flight zone.
Really?
It's all business on the Mind Yourself page, yeah.
God.
I have to keep it business. It's all business, yeah.
That's where you create a Finsta, Seánie.
What's that?
It's a fake Insta.
Oh.
It's like the personal one. So you've got your business, right?
I do have my personal one, but I'm keeping that personal. Like, if I did have it up for a while, if people wanted to get in contact with me in a personal sense, like friends or whatever, because sometimes I can be quite ignorant on the Mind Yourself page because I would get bombarded with messages, and as much as I'd love to get back to everybody, I do not have the mental capacity to sit down and talk to people that I don't know over a lengthy basis, because I feel at the minute now with what's going on in my life, I'm even neglecting my close people, you know. Like, my mother texted me the other day, she goes, you must be very busy, son, you haven't rang me in 3 days. And I was like, oh fuck, my mother. Like, imagine not being busy enough to ring your mother with everything that's going on in your life, positive and negative. Like, the only woman that has been around my life the whole way through, like, and I still haven't got the time to ring her. So if any of my mates or pals or anybody sees this and I haven't got back to you in a few days, please understand.
Message him on his Insta.
Message on the private Insta.
On the private Insta.
Yeah. Instagram is a weird world. It's a very weird world.
Yeah. Like, I find it very interesting because what happens with me is like people do reach out on like Instagram DMs and stuff. I find it just a bit weird when it's like the audacity with no context.
Why do you get people coming after you?
Not after me, but sometimes it's just like, I would know. So I would have an Instagram and a TikTok, right?
Mm.
And what happens with TikTok is if a video really picks up, people that want access obviously have to come through on Instagram, because there isn't a messaging feature on TikTok unless you follow each other, right?
Okay.
So then it's like, okay, I saw your TikTok go viral. Big fan. Can I be on the podcast? I'm like, what? Like,
I don't get why people ask to go on podcasts. Like, I find that strange, and I've heard that about a few people in the Instagram reality getting in touch with people who have podcasts to go say, you should have me on. And I'm like, any podcast I've ever been on I've been invited on because someone wants to chat about what's going on.
yeah.
You know?
Look, in fairness, let's say if you have a book or anything like that and it's part of your promotion or whatever, sure. If you literally just have IBS and want to fucking come on the podcast to chat about you having the shits.
I better not have talked about my IBS.
Yeah.
I don't. But
No,
I
but like,
understand what you're saying.
people literally just want a platform. And sometimes, and that's like this, not even the sad thing, right? Because I do have empathy for that. Sometimes people just want to have a good discussion and want to be asked good questions, which is fair.
Yeah.
I think discourse, especially good discourse, is super important.
Yeah.
And we do lack it. And it's kind of going to people that have an Instagram following or have a platform or a service that are getting the good discourse
Yeah.
on in a medium like this.
That's it, yeah.
But I think people just need to understand that they can do it with their buddies. You can reach out to your friends. You can reach out to strangers. People don't know how to use social media for their own good. It's like, so a common topic that comes up on my podcast is loneliness in your 20s and trying to make friends in your 20s. Because especially if you did move country and all that, you don't have connections. It is quite difficult.
It's a brave thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. So that is quite a common thing. And I think people just literally don't understand that you have a phone that connects you to so many people. All you have to do is reach out with interest and authenticity.
Very, very true. Authenticity is the word that it's been a buzzword lately, and people have said it to me, and I've said it to a lot of people. And I think if you are authentic with yourself and how you portray yourself, and it's not portraying yourself, if you're being authentic, that is you. The whole world is seeing that. You will attract the people that you want in your life. Even with the social media thing, it is a good way to communicate with people, but it's a strange way to message people if you've never met them before.
Yeah.
Like, I have people messaging me about doing work together, and I'm like, it doesn't work like that, bud. You kind of, and I'm shooting myself in the foot here if people are seeing this, like, because I do want to collaborate with people, but people just message me and they expect me to start like becoming a rep for something, and I'm not about that life, you know.
Yeah.
So
no, it's you need to give. You need to give. And that's the interesting thing. It's like, so I reached out to you. It was basically a cold message, yeah?
Yeah.
But it was more like, here's the benefit that's going to happen. And this is what we're going to do about it. So all I need is for you to show up. You don't have to work after that.
Yeah.
The moment that you reach out to someone but they have to do the work for you, then you're fucked.
Yeah.
And sometimes there is that level of, I feel like entitled is too like extreme of a word to use here. But there is a little bit of entitlement where it's like, oh no, if they want to, they would. And it's like, no, you know, it goes two ways.
Yeah.
If I had a hoodie company, right, and I want you to rep it, what makes more sense? Me just going, oi, listen, love your stuff, really good. I think we match here and there. I'm going to come down to Portmarnock. Is it okay if I grab you for 5 minutes just to give you this free hoodie?
Yeah.
And like that, I'm also adding more bums in your seats.
Some people have done that when they've approached me, and it's been a smarter way to do it, because I don't know a lot of people, and then I've ended up doing a bit of work with this group of lads that have set up their own clothing company. They're creating A Wave is the name of the clothing company, and they're making their clothes from recycled plastic, and their motto is F plastic. And I just got in touch with them and we kind of just started mingling and mixing stuff back and forward, and it kind of happened naturally. And I was like, look, can we come down and do
Exactly.
something together? They come down, done
Smart.
something, and now we're doing more work together. And that's the kind of way you should approach people. That's the way I'd approach people if I want to do a bit of work with them. Even when you approached me, you had set out from the start, this is what it's going to be about. Because I was like, I don't want to go on another podcast and just talk about yoga. But you had said, this is what we're going to talk about. And I was like,
Yeah,
I'm pulled in straight away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
it all depends on how you approach people on Instagram. Some people are very just money oriented, you know, and
That's something that I've kind of, I went into it being really, I don't see, like rejecting the idea, like really believing in people, if that makes sense.
what do you mean?
In that I was like, oh no, that's what like everyone on the internet says, that like people are really money driven and really fake. I'm like, no, people are sound. Like you really believe and hold on to this concept. But
It's nice to have that belief, but
yeah,
when you're, I don't know, I've just seen a lot of stuff over the last few years, especially in the kind of area of work that I'm in. Like, I'm all about making money. I want to make money, but I
Yeah.
want to do it in the right way. But I've seen a lot of stuff going on through social media, people just getting extorted, and then I'm hearing back about how crap an experience was for someone, or how bad something was run, but it was still costing this, that, and the other amount of money. And I'm like, well, that's just the people are just thinking of the ticket sales and the doors straight away, you know. But each to their own. I'm planning on making a lot of money now over the next few years through my own brand. So, but I'm going to keep everything in a reasonable price for people that are able to access it. I think that's where a lot of,
yeah.
especially in the health sector,
Oh my God.
nothing
Look,
is accessible price wise, you know.
fucking hell. The other day, right, what documentary did I watch? It was about mushrooms, but not psychedelic, just like different mushrooms,
Fantastic
like lion's
fungi.
head. It's something like that, yeah. It's like, I want to learn about mushrooms, you know. A 4-hour walk, 150 euros to learn how to forage
Where was this?
in Dublin. Is that-
north side or south side?
I have no idea.
How much
I'm a
was it?
foreigner. 150.
For a 4-hour walk.
Or 3, something like that. Look, it wasn't fucking worth it, right? Like
Yeah.
out in the, and like you'll have tea afterwards.
Yeah, it's not really worth it. For someone to bring you out for 150 quid, and like, what do you need to know? If you bought a foraging book for a fiver and went for a walk yourself,
Yeah, exactly.
You'd
It's
understand it as
and
much.
it's more just like if you are creating a community where there's people around and all that kind of stuff. If you want people to get out there, make it a bit more.
that's why the yoga took off so well with me. I just left it
Exactly.
open for people to come and they didn't have to pay. And I've seen a lot of people using that business model now. When they weren't out doing things during the lockdown, like I was there the whole way through the lockdown, providing these spaces for people, and people now that the world is open up, it's kind of like robbing the same business model I went with, you know. So
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I don't care. It's like it's imitation is the biggest form of flattery. So
Go on.
I'm very flattered that people.
Namaste.
Namaste. I'm very
Namaste,
flattered that people want to copy
motherfuckers.
me. Yeah. So,
Did
but
they
the-
try it at your, not your beach, but like the
no, like there's loads of yoga instructors down at that beach, which is great. But
beach? Yeah.
I just see a lot of the buzzwords that was associated with my yoga being used with a lot of other people's events and this, that, and the other. You know,
It's
So
quite a competitive sector that you're in.
I don't compete with anybody. I just do my own thing. If like people know me from,
Would you compete with yourself?
I'll compete with myself.
Do you believe in that?
Yeah. I feel like if you're competing with other people, you can get sucked into other people's successes or failures. And some people can get a lucky break and some people can get a bad break. But at the end of the day, that's other people's stuff. You just have to focus on yourself. So I just really focus on what I'm trying to do within myself. And if I feel like I'm slipping up, I'll give myself a bollocking and I'll put myself through a 4, 5, 6 week intensive test of avoiding people. Not avoiding people, but just not having time to fuck around. So yeah, I feel like I'm my only competition. And
I like the 6-week
Yeah.
intensive period.
Like I'm always training, I'm always doing my things. I always get like that's the whole purpose. Mind Yourself 365 is to do something every day that makes you feel good, physically, mentally, spiritually. But then if I know I've after been slacking off or I've been kind of caught giving me energy to people who don't need it or
Yeah.
areas that my energy shouldn't be in, then I'm like, right, get back in the zone.
Yeah.
You're in ninja mode now for 6 weeks, and that's what ends up happening.
If you could give someone a piece of advice heading into 2023, new year, new me, this year is going to be fucking different. how do you make this year different? Actually,
What I done last year, and I'm really surprised at myself because it's nearly all coming true, bar one thing. I wrote myself a contract on New Year's Eve and sent it to myself in an email. I set myself out a definitive plan for the whole year, and although there were major goals, there was loads of minor goals that just had to be done. I just knew they were going to come, just simple things that I just had to line up. But I just put one goal for every season of the year. So by the end of it, I'll have 4 major goals, bar one that I couldn't, just something better ended up coming along. So I was like, grand. But that's what happened to me. I put a definitive plan, wrote myself a contract, and spoke some very harsh words to myself about how much I had been messing around before and how it doesn't happen again. And I think I'm going to be quite happy when I open up that email now at the end of the year, because I told myself I wouldn't open it up until the end of the year. And yeah, I'm quite happy with what's happening. So cool. I think putting structure, and just like the main thing, right? You can have the structure and you can have whatever, but why are you starting? Why do you want to be healthy? Is it to look good naked? Is it to fit into a pair of jeans? Is it to prolong your life so you can have a good time with your family, with your children, with the woman you love, the man you love? What is your reasoning for wanting to be healthy? If it's aesthetics, cool, do it for aesthetics. If it's for the woman you love or the man you love, if it's for your kids, if you want to prolong your life, do the fucking thing. Like, because if you don't do it, you're just going to get unhealthier and unhealthier, and you're going to be more unhappy because you're after wasting another year of your life doing the same shit you did the year before. And the next New Year's Eve will come around, and the next New Year's Eve will come around, and the next New Year's Eve will come around. And when you die, there'll be a million and other New Year's Eves after, because the world is going to keep turning. So I think when you're here on this planet, you should definitely try to have fun, have your parties, do whatever you need to do, but try to live as long and as healthy and have a good experience in this planet as you can. So that would be my advice.
Go on. Any famous last words before the year ends?
No, I've no famous last words. I'm just I've nothing but peace and love with my heart. I've been quite, over the last few years, I've been on a path, and even now sometimes I feel like with a bit of begrudgery that I do hear off people that I don't mix with or whatever, I'm just like, you know what, I actually can't even be bothered arguing with people anymore. I've nothing but peace and love in my heart, and just ready to attack the next year.
You're gonna smash it.
I feel like I am. I feel like I've
You're smashing it already, in fairness.
Just get to India now and advance my yoga teacher training. That's the next step.
What level would that be?
It depends on what I'm going into, but I've already done a 200 hour. So I'm going to go and do a 300 hour for a month or two, maybe, in India.
Would that mean an additional 100, or
no? It'd mean that I would specify in whatever style. So I done, like, it was like a multi-style yoga with hatha, vinyasa, and yin. All under the 200, but I could go then and do 300 hour specifying in vinyasa, or 300 hour in Ashtanga, or 300 hour in whatever Ayurvedic medicine. It all depends. Which one are you going to do? I'm trying to find a nice course that has there was one I seen was where the asana practice was vinyasa, which is quite athletic, quite sporty. You're going to be put through your paces, but there was also an Ayurvedic cooking class attached to that. So you learn about, have you ever heard of Ayurveda?
No.
So in Western medical terms, we have doctors.
Yeah.
TJ behind the screen there probably tell you this. In India, an Ayurvedic doctor is held in higher regard than a Westernized doctor.
Okay.
So with Ayurveda, it is pretty much how we can change our lifestyle factors, introduce different ways of eating, introduce different herbs, spices, different types of treatments, body massage.
Unreal.
These all fall under Ayurvedic treatments or Ayurvedic practices. And they can heal pretty much anything in the body. As far, so say if we have a scale of health, so we have 0 to 10.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we have 0 to 10, we have 0 to -10.
Yeah.
Ayurvedic doctors, now this is my understanding of it, can go back as far as probably being a -3 in terms of illness. So when you get to -3, that's kind of like your amputations, your cancers, those kind of things. But any other ailment up as far as that, if you can get your Ayurvedic lifestyle sorted out, get some Ayurvedic treatments, they're able to treat up the whole way through that
Crazy.
and bring balance to the body. I think you have to do 9 years to become an Ayurvedic doctor, where you've only got to do 6 or 7 to be a westernized doctor.
Yeah.
And you will be sent to an Ayurvedic doctor
Okay.
in Eastern instead of a westernized doctor.
And you said the cooking. You said the cooking class.
Yeah, because you can cook through like Ayurvedic cooking recipes, through different oils, through different spices, and they help promote better health in the body. So
I see.
that's what I want to do. I want to kind of, because I have the nutrition degree, the health science and nutrition degree from the science background. Ayurveda stands for, it translates into life science.
Wow.
From Sanskrit. So I feel like I need to get the balance of both sides, and I'll be able to help people a lot more. So
Exactly.
yeah. And
Spice your noodles up.
spice the rice, spice the noodles, spice everything up.
Spice everything up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. I really
Thanks very much.
appreciate
It was so nice to be on a podcast that wasn't just about yoga. Every time I'm on a podcast, just yoga. So thanks very much for having me on.
It had to end with it, though.
I had to end with yoga.
It's a big part of your life.
It's a big part of my life, so, and I'm grateful for every step and grateful for
every pose.
Have you done much yoga yourself?
No.
You're going to have to come to one of my classes now.
I have to now. I owe you one.
Definitely.
I've tried it before. Huh?
Yeah, but you haven't tried my yoga.
I haven't tried yours.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Up Longford.
Up Longford. What part of France are you from?
I am not from France. I'm Malta.
Oh, Malta.
Yes, you fucked up. I fucked up and you fucked up.
Why did I say Malta after us discussing about this?
That's okay. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Happy New Year.
Thanks.